Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. Happy New Year. Happy 2023. It's good to be back with you all. I am Carol Williams with another Monday morning edition of Beyond the Soundbite, where we talk about all things U.S. immigration that I think you need to know about. Usually we cover topics that have happened within the past week or so. Sometimes it's certainly a little bit further out than a week because it's ongoing. But you all know how we are here at Beyond the Sunbite. So let's dive right on in. We've got a few things I want to talk to you about this new year. Immigration has certainly been busy over what most people would consider the holiday break. So on December 23rd, we had a new green card form that became effective. So any of your green card applications using the adjustment of status need to be filed using this new form. We have this new form, and the reason I'm bringing it up is because there are new public charge related questions on the form. So if you have filed an adjustment of status in the past few days, you have not seen any new adjustment of status questions, then you probably unfortunately used the wrong form, which means immigration will reject that application and send it back to you. So you want to be sure that you are using the latest version of the form, which of course can be found on the USCIS website. So I just want to make sure that our applications are making it through and they're not being rejected. That's a super important one. The next thing I want to talk to y'all about is what's being called stampless entry. So usually we're used to flying back into the US, we get our passport stamped. And if you are not a US citizen or a green card holder, it says how long you have to stay in the US. Well, currently CBP, Customs and Border Protection is really, they're quite far along in a pilot to expand physical passport stamps in your passports. So if you have flown through several airports, you will see that that is the case. And so let me just give you the rundown of those airports, just in case maybe you were a little bit confused about what was happening and why you weren't given a stamp. So those airports are San Francisco, SFO, Chicago, Atlanta, Dallas, Boston, Montreal, Calgary, Toronto, New York, Dublin, Houston, Washington, Dulles, Seattle, and Los Angeles, LAX. This is also happening, this stampless entry is also happening at some of the land ports of entry. So when you are driving in or walking over, and those are Seattle, Buffalo, Detroit, Laredo, San Diego, and Tucson. So if you are not getting a physical stamp in your passport, and you are coming through one of those ports of entry, if you are confused about it, absolutely ask a question, and you'll probably be told that it is a pilot program. If you are concerned that you didn't get a stamp, you can always go online and check your I-94, but they are piloting. They're in sort of the middle of a pilot program that started August of last year to test out stampless entry. So I wanted to let y'all know about that in case that was a little bit confusing. I know there was a lot of holiday travel. The third thing I want to talk about is, because we were still seeing this, I feel like January is a good time to talk about this. Options for employees who have been recently laid off or who have left their roles and they were in non-immigrant status. So your options really kind of fall into some very general categories. And if you want to discuss your specific options, feel free to reach out to our office at 954-903-1337. But your general options are, you can certainly utilize your 60-day grace period. You can utilize that time to look for another position or to, in fact, wrap up your affairs in the U.S. and return home. Your other option is, to return home. That is absolutely an option. And unfortunately, for some people, that will be their only option. But it is important that you understand that. You can move to a new employer in the same or a different visa category. If you're moving to a new employer, you've found a new employer that will sponsor you, you may require, and it may be a better fit for your experience and the potential job offer, to switch visa categories, to change visa categories. So that is sometimes going to be an option for some folks. If you are currently in H-1B status and you are looking for a new position, you can always go to another H-1B status. Again, assuming that your experience and the new role that the new employer would want you in is eligible and works for the H-1B category. You can certainly do that as well. You can also self-petition for a green card if that option is available to you. You can apply for visitor status. The important thing to note with applying for visitor status does not allow you to work in the United States. So just be aware of that. You can also apply to university, go back to school, and increase your academic knowledge. So those are the general buckets that I talk to people about when I'm getting calls regarding layoffs and terminations and switching jobs. And those options are available whenever someone loses their current employment. So it's not just because we have seen some significant layoffs in certain sectors. These options are always available. Now we've focused on the employees. Now I want to focus on the employers who are having to lay off or terminate some of their non-immigrant employees. Things that you all as the employers should remember. Some non-immigrant categories require you to offer plane fare home to the employee that you are terminating. So H's require that, as well as O's, your O1 extraordinary ability folks. So keep that in mind and make sure that you do that. Make sure that you do that in writing to your employee. If you are hiring an individual, you've found that resume, you've found that candidate, and you think they would be a great fit, only they're not a U.S. citizen, you can hire them, but you really need to know where they are in their 60-day grace period, because that may impact some of your options. So you definitely want to make sure that you are consulting with an immigration attorney to see what all of the possible options are for your new candidate who may have been recently let go from their prior employment. And if your new candidate happens to have been in H-1B status with their prior employer, and the position that you want to now hire them for and their experience work well together, and that is, we can then file another H-1B. That is going to be most likely your quickest way to get that new person on board and, working with you all and part of your team. So whether you are an employee or an employer, if you have questions about what happens when you have been laid off as an employee, what happens when you are hiring someone who has been laid off or recently terminated as an employer, feel free to give my office a call. We do this all day, every day. We can be reached at 954-903-1337. And we want to make sure that you are aware of all of your options. The other thing I want to talk to y'all about is China. So China is currently going through a surge in their COVID-19 cases. Those numbers have been spiking recently. So as a result, the U.S. mission in China has temporarily suspended all visa services. So if you are physically present in China, please understand that the U.S. mission to China is currently not offering any U.S. visa services. Those services are temporarily suspended. As soon as they are up and running again, I will certainly let you know here. Or you can also follow me on my other social media channels, and we will talk about it there as well. The next thing I want to talk to you about this wonderful Monday morning is that the Department of State has extended interview waivers for some, not all, non-immigrant applicants. So the first thing I want to run through with you are which non-immigrant visa categories are eligible. And those are Fs, there are students, H1s or H2s, H3s, H4s, our Js, our Ls, which are our intra-company transfers, our Ms, our Os, which are extraordinary ability folks, our Ps, and our Qs. So as you know, immigration is a veritable alphabet soup. So those are the visa categories that are eligible for having the waiver or having the interview waived. When the interview is waived, we know that you typically get a consular, you get your visa much quicker. Each consulate operates a little bit differently, so please keep that in mind. If you get a notice that says that your interview is waived, it doesn't mean that you're going to be asked to submit your documents, within that next week. You still might have to wait a month or so, or maybe even longer, but that is still bringing the State Department is working really hard to bring down the backlogs and processing times, and that is why they have extended this interview waiver. So it is extended through the end of this year, so through December 31st of 2023. But keep in mind, it is on a case-by-case basis. So this is not a blanket policy. All interviews are not waived for these particular visa categories. Some individuals will still need to go in to the consulate in person and have an interview. So please keep that in mind. This is absolutely not a blanket policy. But what this policy extension does is it frees up many, many interview slots for individuals that are going to be required to go in and have an interview. So that is indeed good news from the Immigration Service and from Department of State, who oversees all of our consulates overseas. The next thing I want to talk to you about is also coming out of China that will impact individuals traveling to the US from China. The CDC has recently announced that a negative COVID-19 test is required for anyone traveling from China. That requirement begins January 5th of this year, 2023. So as of January 5th, 2023, if you are traveling to the US from China, you will be required to show a negative COVID-19 test or documentation that you have recovered from the COVID-19 virus. And that is for all travelers 2 years of age and older. And these are for flights that are originating in China, Hong Kong, and Macau. And again, this is because of the recent increase in their COVID-19 cases over in China. And the last thing I want to talk to y'all about this morning is TPS for Yemen has been extended for 18 months. So that will be from March 4, 2023 to September 3rd, 2024. And there is a redesignation for TPS for Yemen as well, for individuals that want to apply for the first time. You must have been residing in the United States as of December 29 of 2022 to be eligible for the redesignation of TPS for those individuals that are from Yemen. So that is what I have this Monday morning. Another edition of Beyond the Soundbite. I am Carol Williams with Williams Immigration, where every Monday morning we talk about all things immigration related to your business and your family. If this is helpful for you, or if you found this helpful, you think someone else might find it helpful, feel free to share. Or if you have any questions, you are also welcome to drop a comment below. I do look at them and do respond. Sometimes, due to the nature of the questions, I do respond via DMs. Please don't think that if you're scrolling through and I haven't responded, it means that I've probably responded to that person via DM. So again, I am Carol Williams. This is the very first Beyond the Soundbite of January 2023. Have a wonderful Monday and a great